think this one might ruffle a few feathers. If you're trying to get booked on podcasts just to get your name out there, you're probably wasting your time. Not all shows are worth that time, not all interviews build your brand, and not all exposure is good exposure. In this video, I will show you how to build a repeatable strategy for landing top podcast appearances by working smarter, not just by pitching more or harder. I'll also show you how to avoid the shows that look impressive but do absolutely nothing for your brand or your bottom line, and we'll make sure we've got a strategy that you can take away. Hi, I'm Freddie. I run a top 1% podcast where I've interviewed more than 100 guests with a combined net worth of more than $3 billion, including Chris Doe, Dan Henry, Lauren Tickner, and Daniel Priestley. My team and I have also helped more than 200 entrepreneurs, experts, and business owners to turn podcast guesting into their top marketing channel and drive hundreds of thousands of dollars to their businesses. Here's the most common mistake I see. People pitch themselves onto any podcast that will say yes. Literally any podcast that approaches someone, or you pitch and they say yes, you're like, yes, let's go on this podcast. It's gonna be great. I'm amazing. I'm gonna nail this. In reality, you've probably never driven substantial revenue from podcasting, so you're probably not as good as you think you are. Then people wonder, why am I not seeing the results? Why am I seeing no traffic, no leads, no credibility boost? Or even worse, some people land on big name shows too early and flop. There's nothing funnier than when someone asks to get onto Diary of a CEO or Joe Rogan or the big top 0.5% podcast because you know they're never gonna get on. Why? Because podcast guesting is its own game. It's different from speaking on stage and posting about it on Instagram, LinkedIn, the social platforms, and going viral. So if you're not strategic, you'll either fall flat on your big show, or you'll spend time on small ones that no one are ever gonna listen to. And so if you want to land on big shows, you've got to earn your way up the ladder. And this is what that looks like in practice. This is what we need to start doing. Step one, start small, but start smart. Look for niche shows in your space with engaged hosts, ones where the message that you can give would truly resonate. This is your training ground, really important. Think of this as your training ground. Even if you're a big keynote speaker or you've got thousands of followers, you need a training ground for podcasting. This is how you're gonna get good. Same way you'd build a business, same way you build any following, you start in a training ground and you build up and you test and you see what works. So you wanna build your voice, refine that storytelling. You don't even know what stories are gonna resonate yet, and get comfortable on the mic. We've had some massive guests where as soon as the mic goes red, they can't speak, they just get all fluffed up and nervous. You want to practice that before you get onto the bigger and bigger shows. Step two is to gather social proof. So we want to use the clips from early shows, create content, build authority so that bigger shows can see that you've done well on the smaller ones and that you're a valuable person to have on. A really good 10-minute story from a niched podcast will do way more for your brand than a one-liner quote in Forbes that you're going to try and use the logo and put everywhere. And step three then would be to move to the mid-tier shows. So mid-tier shows, I'm saying, are going to be top 5% and above. They're doing at least 1,000 downloads per episode, plus all the different things on YouTube and Instagram, the views there. We're talking about downloads first. So we want to look for shows with consistent uploads, hosts who do lots of prep, guests who are known but not untouchable. These are the shows that can move the needle. They can get you real credibility. And hosts will take you more seriously when you've clearly put in the reps. So when we have people pitch to us and we can see they haven't been on podcasts, maybe they even say, I don't listen to podcasts. We just know you think you're better than you are. This is going to be a flop of a show. Step four, top tier leverage. So now you've got proof that you're a good guest because you've been on those mid-tier and those low-tier shows. You know that you've got stories that land. You've got a reel or a one-pager that shows you're super credible, and also then I guess you've got shows that will say yes. You can say these are the shows I've been on because you've earned it. You've not begged for it. It's really important that we're looking for someone who is proven as a great podcast guest. That's how you get on the big ones. This is the part that I think will ruffle some feathers, right? So we're thinking about all podcasts, how good podcasts are, which ones are good, which ones are bad. Well, I'm here to tell you that they're not all created equally. And it's harsh to say because podcasts are expensive. Even small podcasts, it still costs money. The investment and the time to grow any kind of following on a podcast is a lot. And so it's harsh to say, maybe you shouldn't go on these ones, you shouldn't go on those ones. But this is a strategic video. We want to be strategic with our time so that we get the revenue that we deserve on the back end of going on to shows. So here's what to look for before you pitch. Here are some green flags. You need to look for a host that actually cares. They should be really, really prevalent in some platforms. They ask great questions, they're engaged, they're not reading off a sheet. They've built a real audience, even if it's small, but it's got to be loyal. And their guests are people that you respect or aspire to align with. The podcast should also promote the episode properly, but by that I mean they should have a launch plan, they should have a set number of assets going out to promote you and your episode, and a back catalogue of consistently doing this, consistent episodes. You don't want someone that does one podcast a month or one every couple of weeks. It needs to be consistent. Then you can see they've got actual investment, so they've probably got a decent audience on the download side. One more green flag, you still want to go on even if you didn't get a single lead. So this is a really good point. If you could go onto a show and you think, I'm guaranteed to get no leads from this one, but I'd still go on, then that's probably a good show. That's one that you know is going to be a good show, and it's just going to be down to you whether you can deliver your message and get people to come towards you and eventually become customers. That's the kind of show that fits your positioning really, really well. And so some red flags. The red flags would be if a show is clearly just a sales funnel for a host. So lots of people are using podcasts as sales funnels. And the easy way to tell this is when you book to go on the show, they might send you a type form or some sort of quiz. You can straight away find out if they're asking too much detail about your business. That's going to be a sales call. They're trying to find what they can sell to you. Don't go on those shows. Also, if episodes are only 3 to 5 minutes, aka they've got no depth, don't go on them. If there's low energy in the host, or they don't care, or they don't prep, there's no back catalogue, for example, don't go anywhere near them. If there's no episode structure, if they're rambly, unclear, no purpose, even the big podcasts where you might think they don't have a structure, they're quite rambly, they just talk about whatever they want, you're wrong. They put that together so well that you think that's what it's like. A lot of podcasts, big ones that are 2-3 hours, they're actually filmed in 10-15 minute chunks. So don't be mistaken to think that a really good high level podcast is rambly without it wanting you to think that it's rambly. It's all structured. These are high level, expensive media companies. Another red flag would be no social media clips, therefore no traction, no promotion, ghost content. Don't go anywhere near that. It's not going to benefit you. They might say that they get downloads and they've got an email list. Don't trust them. Again, if the host is not excited to have you on, because if they're not excited, their audience, which is supposed to trust them, be loyal to them, won't be excited either. And we need that whole, host and audience unity to work in our favor. They should be excited about the stories and the angle that we've proposed to them. Because everyone wants to land a huge podcast. But here's the danger to you if you go for a huge podcast straight away. Maybe you'll ramble. You'll undersell your message. You won't have a story that hooks. You'll freeze under pressure. There'll be people in the room that you won't like to be around you. You'll be nervous. And the result of that is that you'll blow that shot. And you'll think getting on that podcast was going to drive you leads and it was going to get you onto more podcasts. And you'll live online forever as this sort of amazing person that came from nowhere into the star of a big podcast. In reality, even if you're a keynote speaker with a killer stage presence, podcasting is a completely different skill set. It's intimate, it's long form, story-led, it's trust building on steroids. And I personally have seen and sat across from 7-figure entrepreneurs bombing because they don't know how to tell a good story or hook a podcast listener. There's nothing more awkward than that happening. If you want a really simple system for this, use the 3A framework. So think about audience. Does this show reach your people? Not just people, but your actual market. Number 2 is alignment. Is the host someone whose brand, values, and tone match yours? It's not about ego, it's about messaging fit. That part's so important. Number 3 is assets. Does the podcast produce good content? You can check this really easily. Do they create clips, reels? Do they tag guests? Are they in focus? Are they distributed well? If not, there's no repurposing leverage and you're doing free PR with no ROI. Obviously, we're not going on podcasts just to get that content. That's the wrong way of looking at it, but it does show professionalism and a level of intent and understanding from the host. You really want all 3, audience, alignment, and assets. The goal isn't just to get booked, of course, it's to be remembered, to get DMs, referrals, clients, exposure, and exposure that really sticks. That's what we want to do. And that starts with being super intentional. So we really need to choose the podcast we go on with care. We want to start small, build proof, use our early interviews to get better and better and better. So it's unreasonable for us not to get on bigger and bigger podcasts. Really important to say no to all the time wasters, and don't shoot for the moon until you've got a real rocket to show how good you are. It makes complete sense when you break it down like this, that you would only get on the bigger and bigger podcasts when you've been on the circuit for a while. Think of it as someone who's going on to TV shows to promote a movie. They're not just going to go on all the big ones. They're going to go on the smaller ones to start with if their name is not out there. They need to prove themselves. They need to get their name known. Then when they go on the big one, people know them, remember them, and ultimately buy whatever they're trying to sell. So when you approach guesting with a strategy, not an ego, you stop becoming just ignored or getting ignored, and you start getting invited. Invited is what we really want to get to. And as always, thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to ask me any questions in the comments below. I'll catch you in the next one.